Monday, July 11th, 7/11/2022. So 7/11/22. So it's kind of neat. Neat numbers game. I don't know what it means. There's a lot of people that believe in numbers and what they, bode for us, and, the magic of numbers, 322, those kind of things, 33, 17, all these numbers. So I don't know if it means anything. It doesn't matter. I haven't made a video in quite a while. It's been like a week, but what am I supposed to say? The economy's collapsing, the housing market's crashing, cryptos are down, stock market's down, the dollar's up though. So if you want to buy things overseas, the purchasing power of the dollar compared to other currencies is up. So if you want to travel to Europe or buy some foreign goods that you can't get because the supply chain's broken, or I guess, fly to Europe and hopefully get there, because the airlines can't seem to keep planes flying because they don't have enough pilots, or the planes. I don't know what the deal is. Doesn't matter. But here's the situation we're in. The dollar itself is probably going to be the last man standing. It's the best horse in the glue factory, the cleanest dirty t-shirt, that kind of thing. We're seeing everything kind of erode along the edge. As you saw, and maybe you didn't because the mainstream news doesn't report it, but Sri Lanka, it's right off India, I think, little island there, isn't it? I can't remember. Need to go back to geography class. But they have basically imploded. The president's left, and they stormed the presidential palace, and somewhere else it happened too. I think was it in the Netherlands, in Northern Europe there, where they're trying to prevent farmers from growing things and having livestock because, it's to fight global warming. I'm sorry, climate change. See, they conveniently change it from global warming to climate change. So there's this big push we need to take out the ability to, produce methane gas and nitrogen and all these different things. All these things that kind of do happen naturally on the planet. Carbon dioxide, bad thing, even though the trees produce it or eat it. Sorry. They produce oxygen for us. So, if you take away the carbon dioxide, you won't have as many trees. Therefore, you won't have as much oxygen. I'm a firm believer that we should not be tampering with nature, and we've done enough of it already. But everything we can, when I say not tampering with nature, I mean trying to control levels of certain things and natural things that occur in nature. Now, you can make the argument that that's what we're trying to fight because all the things that are happening in nature are unnatural. But you can take all the pollution in Los Angeles that produced by cars, for instance, or name a city in China. Do you think it's going to have more of an effect on the environment, the world, climate, than, let's say, a volcano eruption? I remember back in, I don't even know what it was. I was in grade school, maybe 1980, somewhere around there. 1980, Mount St. Helens erupted, and I remember that, and I didn't get it. I was a little kid. And the teacher's saying, when you go outside, be careful, don't go outside. And we're breathing it, no, you go outside, it's going to be dark out, it's going to be darker, we're going to have these clouds, it's from this volcano. And at the time, I didn't really understand, what was going on, but I do remember that, and I do remember, the ashen clouds coming over and being warned about them. And look at the effect that had. Here I am in Illinois, and they're way out there in Washington State, and then all that comes over here and affects it. Some monarch butterflies. The monarch butterfly is an interesting character. They travel a path, the same path that their ancestors traveled, but they've never traveled that path. So in other words, they've never been shown that path, but they just innately know that path that they travel, a little circuit that they travel. And they just instinctively know that. It's in their DNA. It's passed down somehow. They have something in them that tells them where they need to go. And they have little stopping points, and it's just very interesting. There's so many things that we have in possession of inside of us that I don't think we understand. We do, we get glimpses of it, we kind of come out of it and see it. But, their DNA, there's an article, I think, by Harvard, did some research on it, came out and said terabytes of information can be stored in your DNA. Terabytes. So essentially unlimited amounts of data could be stored on your DNA. Then I think, well, maybe there are unlimited amounts of data stored in our DNA that we just don't access. And some people access it and have the ability to do it, and they can see into the Akashic record with this thing, this all of history, that you can see into, forever, and the history of the world, universe. Maybe we carry that with us. I don't know. Something to think about. Monarch butterflies. But going back to the whole system and what's happening right now, and the climate change and all of the restrictions that governments want to put on people rather than living freely. We've shot off nuclear bombs in the desert and we haven't destroyed the earth. We've blown up cities with atomic weapons. We haven't destroyed the earth. But then you have one volcano and look at the damage it can do. So I think the earth can do a lot more damage than we can ever do. Just a thought. My thinking anyway. Because it's kind of holds water a little bit. I saw today housing contracts canceled at the biggest record in history. So in June, people that had a contract for a house, there were 60,000 of those contracts canceled for houses. It was like 14.9% of the entire for sale market, the housing market. 4.9%, 60,000 contracts for house purchases fell through. To me, that's kind of a big deal. And what's that tell me? It tells me, well, they started raising interest rates, became very unaffordable, or much more unaffordable to buy a house. So you thought, oh, I can go in with a 2.5% interest rate. Oh, now it's 5%? That's a big hit when you have a 30-year mortgage. You're already paying double for the house if you get a 30-year mortgage. So a little financial lesson that you're not necessarily taught in school. Don't ever get a 30-year mortgage. Get enough money for a down payment and get a 15 at the most. Because your rate's going to be better. You're going to pay back less money to the bank. Ideally, save the money as much as you can and then buy the house. But when you go out and leverage yourself and put the minimum amount down, in some cases maybe 0% down, you got no skin in the game, you're paying a ton of money for a house. You're going to pay twice the amount of that after the 30 years. I've seen 40-year mortgages before. Absolutely insane that you enslave yourself. Basically, you've got a prison is what you've got. You got a prison that you're enslaved to. And I don't know, they can tell you the equity's up and, oh, my house is worth this much. It's not worth that unless you sell it or you take out a loan against it, which creates more debt and you're further enslaved. Great idea, huh? So we saw that in June that the 60,000 contracts were canceled. So what's that tell you about housing going forward? Fed's raising rates. They've raised rates 0.75% in June. They're probably going to raise another 0.75 in July. You've got people already saying that, hey, we're in a recession, could be headed toward a depression. And I think what really causes a depression is food shortages. We go through recessions and we can kind of bail ourselves out of it with easy money. They'll keep printing it, and that's what they'll do. They'll come back and start creating all kinds of money and all kinds of stimulus because that's what they do. The problem this time is they've broken the supply chain so much that maybe it doesn't matter how much money you print, you might not be able to get the goods and services you need. And, it's not only that, it's the whole pandemic that happened where you put people out of work, displaced a lot of things. You did not let the market function as it should. Not that it was functioning normally before, because it's a rigged game because of governments getting involved. They pick the winners and losers. However, it's more of a rigged game now because they really destroyed a lot of segments of the free market. Mom and pop shops, they shut down because they couldn't make it. And so now you can print as much money as you want, and it's not going to make a difference because those places are gone. Industries have shut down. I saw, this is an Alec Bradley. I got it in a sample, an Alec Bradley, and I tend to like their cigars. They're okay. They're good. They're good cigars. It's just I'm more of a Rocky Patel or an Oliva fan. Oh man, high tastes, right? At least it's not a Monte Cristo, or a Padron. That's an expensive one, or a Davidoff. I don't even know. Never had one. But this is a Alec Bradley Tempest. It's a natural flavor. It's pretty good. Not as much spice or oomph as I like, but it's very smooth. So anyway, I saw that Bill Gates, one of his, fake meat factories was torched. I don't know if somebody burned it down, looked like arson possibly. You're going to see these situations where people start to lash out. You're seeing populations around the world in different parts of the world. I was talking about, I think, the Netherlands, the Dutch, I think it was, Denmark maybe. I don't even know. Somewhere up there in the low-lying countries that people are rioting in the streets. You've got people who are sick and tired of the inflation, people who are tired of the way government's running things. You've got incompetence at every level because they played this rigged game for so long. And it's really, you know, the Federal Reserve is at the heart of all of it. It's not our national bank, it's a private bank, and they've caused massive amounts of distortions by printing all this money up, and that money goes somewhere, and it goes into the cost of things. That's just what it is. When people say, what's inflation? We need to fight inflation. Well, you've already created that monster and let it out by printing all this money and creating all this money into the system, the trillions of dollars that were created during the pandemic. And we're finding out that it went into all kinds of stupid things, went into different libraries that are teaching, you know, children things they shouldn't be taught and sponsoring things. I mean, this is what happens, though. It's called malinvestment. When you've got all this money that gets thrown out there, it goes into things that it shouldn't go into because there's no value to it. I mean, when you have to work for something, you have to work hard, like mixing concrete by hand, yeah, you appreciate that labor, you know, and if you're getting paid for it, you're probably not going to go blow it, because it's hard to come by. For those of you who are doing any kind of home concrete projects, Mitch, what you need to do is go to Harbor Freight and use the 25% off coupon and get the mixer that you plug in that can mix 3 bags instead of 2. It's $200. Save you a lot of effort, a lot of back-breaking labor that you really don't need to do, especially when you're 50 or over. So anyway, word of advice, just go get the concrete mixer. The reviews are great. And make your life a heck of a lot easier. Then you can always resell it if you want to. Just saying. See, when I talk too much, that's what happens. Cigar goes out. Crypto markets, let's get into that a little bit. You know, we've got everything is kind of going down except the dollar. And my thesis is, or my thinking is that everything, you're starting to see it crumble at the fringes, and then the dollar will be the last thing standing, and then it'll just go up in flames. I mean, they have no option at this point other than to just let the whole thing die, which I don't know that that's going to be a viable option, because you will have people in the streets, and you don't want that in America. You don't want Americans getting ticked off. I mean, at the end of the day, we're pretty complacent when it comes down to it, unlike other countries, because it still works. We can still get gas. I mean, you know, system kind of still works. The money still works. At some point, it may not work. And then what do you do? I mean, you're seeing housing rollover. That's going to affect everybody who owns a house. You think you've got equity in that house. You think that you have an item of value that, I could always sell the house if I had to, or take out a loan. Well, if your house is worth $400,000, let's say, which I guess nowadays is a decent price for a house. It's absolutely ridiculous. I would never pay that much for a house. But $400,000, and then it gets a haircut down to $300,000 because the housing market implodes. Well, that's $100,000 that you can no longer access. You can't get out of the system. You know, of course, the debt enslaves you by getting it, but you can buy other things with it, make investments, whatever it is. When you lose that kind of equity in your house, you don't feel too good about things. You don't really feel like you want to go out and spend a lot of money. You want to pull back. You might not take that vacation. We're not going to fix up that room. We're not going to do this. We're not going to do that. That's what's coming. And it's going to continue. As long as they keep raising interest rates, price of houses have to go down. That's just what it comes down to. And we're really not even at historical levels of lending rates right now. When we get back to the normal, all this artificiality, these inflated house prices, they're going to have to come back to normal. I remember what it was, you know, when it kicked off 2007, started rolling over 2008, 2009, 2010. I mean, the house prices were absolutely ridiculous. Could have gotten them, you know, for a pretty good price. More normal, what it really should be based on what people make for, you know, as a wage. You look at people's wages now compared to what a house costs, and it's out of line. I mean, you can't afford it. You can't afford to go out and buy a house. You can't afford to build a new house with the cost of materials. So it's a big pinch, and we're all getting pinched. We're all getting nailed at every direction, and there will come a breaking point. I mean, I don't know what you do. I mean, I guess my thinking is you put your wealth into something that's going to hold value. The dollar will hold value for a while. You'll be able to purchase things with them as they go down in price. But I mean, the dollar, if they just continue to print it, which they're going to have to do at some point and stimulate, even if they don't, they're still spending more than they make. The government does. So it's still an inflationary situation. It's still a dying system. It's just what it is. It'll just go slower. But I think at some point there will be that, oh, we have to do something, and they'll print a bunch of money and, you know, devalue it. But there will be that time where there will be a sweet spot where if you're holding dollars, you can go in and get some really good deals. At the end of this, when things really start to fall apart, when people start to panic and realize, wait a minute, my dollar is really becoming worth less and less and less, they're going to look at real assets. I mean, right now, I mean, absolute bargain, silver at under 20 bucks. It's like $19 for an ounce of silver. I don't know how they get it out of the ground that cheap with the cost of fuel and the cost of, you know, a big Caterpillar piece of equipment that has to, you know, run diesel through it. And I don't know. I mean, it's just, at some point, I would shut the mine. You know, it's just not worth it. It's not worth trying to pull it out of the ground anymore because you're not making a profit. And I don't know what that break-even price is, but at some point, you're going to get to it. It can only go so low. Same thing with cryptocurrencies. It can only get so low because you've got enough people who have invested in a finite asset like Bitcoin, like Litecoin, to where they're just not going to sell it. I mean, I would never sell Litecoin at under 50 bucks. I mean, and everybody I know would never do that either. I mean, unless they absolutely have nothing left and they have to eat, then, I mean, you do what you got to do. You know, you sell everything you have just to survive. Hopefully it doesn't get to that point. But if it does, you've got an asset, you know, in your possession that you could sell and buy things with. But everybody I know, they're not selling at $50. So you're building a floor, a base of people who are just not going to sell it at a certain price. The same with Bitcoin. At what price do people just not sell it? And it's only what comes out of the new mined Bitcoin that are for sale. And at some point, maybe the miners don't even sell it. They have fixed costs, though, and so they may have to. But that supply will get eaten up because you reach a certain level where people just aren't going to sell it. I don't know if that's 14,000, 11,000, 8,000. I don't know what it is. But at some point, there is a floor, and it will not go below it. My floor with Litecoin is I'm never going to sell Litecoin under 50 bucks. So when I see it at $48, $49 right now, it's just, okay, I'm thinking, all right, I'm probably going to nibble on a few more. I'm going to get a few more because I look at that historically and what a great value that is. And you look at what the last absolute low, oh, my battery's getting low. Should have charged it, huh? I look at the absolute last low that we had was like $25 at the end of what, 2018, I think, in Christmas time. I mean, people who bought there, they're going to sell below that if they've been holding it this long. So there's like the absolute lowest floor price to where you may have a wick touch down to that. There is a floor somewhere. I don't know what it is. I know that my comfort zone is if it's under 50 bucks, I'm going to have to get some. I mean, that's just too cheap. 2 Litecoin for a $100 bill. I will take that $100 bill and buy 2 Litecoin because I think of what else I'm going to get for that $100 bill. Not so much. If I had $200 bills, I'd go buy a concrete mixer, so I'm not mixing concrete by hand anymore. Thanks, Mitch. So there are some value things out there, you know, so you're not busting your back and, you know, hurting yourself trying to do something. Makes more sense. Work smart, right? Always good to work smarter if the ability's there. So I don't know, $100 bill doesn't go very far. Really doesn't. Very easy to drop $100, you know, going out to dinner with you and a couple people. I mean, Mitch and Paulie P and I went out to have a dinner at a diner last week, and it ended up being $60, the three of us. I mean, this is a cheap place, like $60, you know, no alcohol or anything involved. It's just, you know, hey, here's some water, and I got an iced tea, and, you know, got some stuff, they got some stuff, and it ends up being $60 before the tip. So it goes very quickly. I look at it as an opportunity to buy an asset that there's only so much of, only so much to go around, something I can hold in my possession, something that nobody can take it away from me. The network secures it, and you get privacy built into Litecoin now. So that's a big deal. And one of the biggest pushes right now is to get it out to all the portable wallets on your phones to where you can use that privacy feature. Right now, you have to download a Core wallet on a PC or I think on an Apple, you know, basically a computer. But coming soon to the phones, you'll be able to hold that in a secure method, a private method, where nobody's going to be able to see what you have, what you send, what you receive. That's very important in this day and age where you've got intrusive government looking at everything you do. You've got criminals looking at everything you do. Privacy is very important, especially with your money, your hard-earned money. So I choose to lock it up in something that's super value right now. I think it's the most undervalued digital asset right now. Digibyte's right there with it. But I like Litecoin a little more because it's more liquid. I mean, you can get rid of it, you can get it, you know, it's very easy to move it around. Digibyte, not so much. But I think long-term, Digibyte's a big winner. And a penny, absolute tremendous value. So get assets in your own possession, whether it be silver, whether it be the good cryptocurrencies, ones you can hold in your own possession, ones that you can lock up, you have control of, things that you can actually use when other systems start to fail. All right, I want to talk about August 5th and 6th. August 5th, Oklahoma City. Make it a weekend. Oklahoma City on the 5th. Go to roadtorooted.com. Bix Weir has a his road show. It's a great time. Anybody that go to one of those road shows and you'll see electric, the energy. Bix is singing. I mean, it's a freedom. It's a freedom thing. It really is. It brings so many like-minded people together. Go check that out in Oklahoma City, August 5th. And then on the 6th, Litecoin Lisa has her Team Mighty celebration. You can go to litecoinlisa.net to get tickets for that. Make it a weekend. Oklahoma City is a nice place. Go check it out. Just make it a little vacation, a mini vacation if you're close, but just come into town. A lot of like-minded people there. It's about freedom. It's about cryptocurrency. It's about changing the world and bringing people together who can change the world because we've got the right vision. Go check it out, August 5th and 6th. You can go to roadtorooted.com for tickets on Friday the 5th, August 5th, and then you can go to litecoinlisa.net to get tickets to her event, and you won't regret going. You just won't. So, hope you have a wonderful day. Love you all. Don't listen to me. Don't trust me. Trust yourselves because you know better than anybody else does. All right. I love you all. You know the truth. Just follow your instincts. Hope you have a wonderful day. Thanks for watching.